It's something my wife and I talk about almost every week. It's that we're not in control. We have to trust God every single day to do what He's called us to do. And He never said it was going to be easy. I think a lot of people are like, you found Jesus, now your life's like, you're good. And that's not the case. As you get deeper and deeper into God's will for your life, the enemy doesn't like that. And your life is going to get hard, and it's going to get harder and harder and harder as you get deeper and deeper and deeper into your calling and into your faith.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the ROYL Podcast. We are so excited for today's guest. It is Kyle Lindner of Lindner Designs. How you doing, Kyle?
Doing great. How are you, Donnie?
I'm doing great, and I'm looking forward to our conversation tonight and just some of the things we're going to be talking about. You're a jack of all trades, and I can't wait to hear some of the things you get to do. You're a graphic designer, a theme park coaster enthusiast, a writer, and so much more. So let's go ahead and get to know you a little bit. Introduce yourself and give us your testimony as well.
Yeah. I'm Kyle Lindner. I am a Christ follower, husband, dad, and I've been obsessed with roller coasters for as long as I can remember. I don't know if it was as a kid, we always go to, Cedar Point, Kings Island, Disney World. I don't know if it was that or playing Roller Coaster Tycoon, but I always had an itch to go see something new, ride something that I haven't ridden before. So luckily, I've just been able to do that my whole life and continue to do that through a couple different venues now. But it's been great. I also am a graphic designer, like you said. I work full time at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, and I also have my own company called Lindner Design Company, and a company under that called Little Light Design Company. I think we'll talk about that a little later. But I love what I do. It doesn't feel like a job at all, so I can't complain. A little bit about my testimony. I don't have like a super exciting testimony, but I grew up in church. My family has gone to church my whole life. My parents were my Sunday school teachers. I was there every Sunday learning all the stories, doing the right thing. And eventually got into high school. I was going to youth group and got to the point where I didn't have an interest in going. It wasn't that I was done with God or I just would rather be at home, not being social. I think it got to that point. And it was about that time my youth pastor was like, hey, we're going on this overseas missions trip. I think you should come. And I wasn't really sure, but he and some of my youth leaders kept pushing me to go and ended up going to Jamaica that summer. And it changed my life. I got to see like so many people that had almost nothing worshiping harder than anyone I've ever seen before. It was just incredible. I wanted to have that kind of passion myself, and just being around that kind of cemented that in me. And so I came back, really tried to get more involved in our youth group, in our church. Ended up going every other year on a trip like that. I've been to Honduras 5 times now. It's just every time you go, you learn to just really humble yourself and be thankful for what you have. Yeah. Seeing people that have nothing is like truly nothing, and being happy is breaks your heart, but also makes you very, very thankful for what you have. I remember standing in a lady's house in Honduras. It was a 1-bedroom house as big as my office, and there was a 500-pound pig on the floor. And they all, 5 kids and her, lived in this room. It's just incredible that God is there and he loves them just as much as he loves us. And we're all called to be on this journey together. And so from there, I went on to, I met my wife. Well, we didn't meet her in high school. We kind of gone to the church together our whole lives. But we started hanging out in high school. Got married at age 19, which we had some pushback on, but we knew that's what God wanted for us. And like you could tell, like the enemy didn't want us doing this. Once you see what God's doing, you realize there's another side of this. Once you see that unseen part of, the spiritual realm, and it sees you, it doesn't want you doing what God's called you to do. Yeah. So it was obvious that, we were doing what God wanted us to do. And we've even said to each other at one point, like, what in the world does God have in store for us that so much is going wrong in our lives? So we'll get to that eventually, but yeah. We were in college at that point, and I had switched my major a few times and wasn't really happy doing what I'd been doing. I can't even remember now, it was like sports management. And then I was in a computer program, and I found myself, I was like an honor student in high school, and I found myself on academic probation at one point because I just wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And ended up talking to a buddy of mine who actually used to be my youth leader. He's a graphic designer as well. And he was like, have you ever thought about doing this? And I was like, I didn't realize that could be something I could do. I mean, I always loved art. I always loved looking at logos. I always loved drawing. Never thought that would be something that I could do for a living, and did it and changed my major again and got into the program, started taking these art classes, loved it, turned my grades around, got to a point at Ohio University, you had to take so many classes before you could get accepted into the design program. And so I had done that. I had gotten all A's in my design program, submitted my portfolio, and got rejected. And I was like, why is going on? And I talked to some people, talked to my professors, and eventually it came down to this one professor just didn't like the fact that I didn't start in the art program. It was like a political thing. I don't know, but that was frustrating, and it set me back another year. So, fast forward another year, I had more classes and submitted my portfolio again, and I got in. So I ended up graduating. I was 2 years late, but happy with my decision, and, God figuring that out for me. I spent that summer after graduation looking for jobs. Luckily, that the same buddy of mine that got me looking at this path, he has a design agency in town, and he let me come on part-time while I was looking for jobs. And that fall, opportunity came up back at Ohio University as a full-time graphic designer. And I ended up getting that position. And just looking back now, it's all a God thing. Like, he used that, me not getting into the program, to save my time to get this job so I could stay in town with my family, at my church with students that I'd worked with, and not have to move to another part of the state to get a job. So you can just see, just looking back over my life, how God has used those bad things that have happened for something good. We can keep going if you want.
Yeah, go for it. Brag on the Lord, man.
So, yeah, man. It's like, so even like after all that, we got really involved with our youth group. was really something my wife and I both were highly involved in high school. And so we wanted to continue to give back after we graduated. So we ended up working with the youth as youth leaders for nearly 12 years under the guidance of our youth pastor and mentor friend. He's still one of my best friends. But so we were doing all of this at our church. We thought this was going to be like where we were going to be for the rest of our lives. Like our kid was involved. We were involved in other ministries. And so, but we kind of came to a standstill a little bit a couple of years ago where just there was a shakeup in church leadership. Our senior pastor retired. Some other people came in, and it was a couple of years of we just really didn't like what we saw. It didn't feel like things were Christ-like, and ended up our youth pastor I just mentioned, he left for a different job, and we were just like kind of at a standstill. We didn't really know what to do. We weren't comfortable being there. And after a lot of consideration, we left and ended up at a different church in the area with some really good friends of ours. That this church had only 8 people when we got there, when we were at a church of around 500. So you can imagine, like, it's just a crazy change for us, for our kids. But it's been incredible to see, like, how this small group of people stayed together and just welcomed us in with open arms. And we've really poured ourselves into that place now. And 2 years later, we're running around 50 people a week.
Wow.
And just being able to be part of a community that really is looking out for people outside the church. It's not about focusing in on what we want to do, but looking at the unchurched and getting those people in the door. We actually had a drug rehab center in town reach out to us and say, can we bring some of our clients to church on Sunday?
Wow.
And we're like, yeah, of course. And they're like, you're the first church in the area to allow us to come.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. So I don't know. We went from this being in a place that, looking back now, felt like maybe we were too comfortable doing church the traditional way. I know I read a book recently by Natalie Runyon. I don't know if you know that name.
Sounds familiar.
Raised to Stay is her book, but in there she has this quote called deconstruction without reconstruction is just destruction. And I know that word's kind of thrown out there more in the sense of like people really just wanting to destroy their faith, something they grew up with, and they want to, leave. And then I think that I really like that quote, because you have to deconstruct in a way that's constructive, changing what we've traditionally known to do in church into a better way. So I always look back at that and just make sure that to see what we're doing and see if it's the way God would do it. So, and all of that, this is the last thing I'll have to say, but
You're good.
It's just crazy, like all these things that happen to get us to where we are now. And so after doing all that, being in kind of like a tough spot for a couple of years, during all that, my wife and I felt called to do foster care.
Awesome.
So that was a whirlwind, but we've been doing that now for 3 years.
Awesome.
And just seeing the world right outside your own door that you had no idea was there. Kids growing up in terrible environments that, you could drive down the street and never know it. it's really opened our eyes. We've been able to foster several kids and have a few in respite. I think we've had 11 kids in our home in the last 3 years, but we really wanted to be able to adopt. That was always something we had talked about even before we got married. And so this was the way to do that locally, help the local community. We ended up being able to adopt one boy that was in our home for almost 2.5 years this summer. So that was great. It was awesome to see that come full circle. But also, like, doing foster care has really cemented my faith. Just being so humbled that God has entrusted me to help these kids, to be his hands and feet. I remember, I can't say a lot about this, but we had a baby in our home that, in a crazy turn of events, like, tragically, we ended up in the hospital, and just in a matter of 24 hours. And so we were sitting there just experiencing this, witnessing what was happening to him, and knowing what the outcome was going to be, just without being helpless in the situation. It was wild. It was surreal. And I remember sitting there, crying, asking God, like, why is this happening to us? Why did we have to be the ones that dealt with this? And I remember him just telling me over and over that night, I've got him. So just like having him, not only he had him, he knew the situation, but he had us too. And after that, I just felt this incredible sense of peace that I never felt before. Like, I was there in my lowest of lows, completely okay. Like, I was a mess, but I was okay. And so that was wild. There's a quote I like that goes like something like, you will know when you are in the middle of God's will, when you feel peace doing what you're doing. And that's what I felt. So while that was incredibly hard to go through, it really cemented my faith.
That's good.
There's nothing that can convince me otherwise now. Once you truly feel God, and it's hard to deny that fact, So that's a little bit of my backstory, and there's a lot more stories of God coming through for me, but that's for another time.
That's awesome. Praise the Lord for that. And this roller coaster of life, so to speak, it's just neat to see the hand of God working in it all. And that's one of the things we love to share here at Right of Your Life, is to let people know that you could be redeemed, restored, and revived, and God can use your story to give him glory and to bring people to him. And that's just awesome to hear that testimony there. And let me ask you this. What has been the biggest thing God has taught you through all of this, through the fostering, through being married young, to your schooling and graphic design, everything? What has been the biggest thing God has taught you? What has been your takeaway from that?
It's something my wife and I talk about almost every week. It's that we're not in control.
Yeah.
We have to trust God every single day to do what he's called us to do. And he never said it was going to be easy. I think a lot of people are like, you found Jesus, now your life's like, you're good. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
As you get deeper and deeper into God's will for your life, the enemy doesn't like that. Yeah. And your life is going to get hard, and it's going to get harder and harder and harder as you get deeper and deeper and deeper into your calling and into your faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, even in your testimony there, Satan will throw anything in your way to distract you from what God is doing in your life. And even if it's a situation like you mentioned, where you're just asking God, why are you allowing us to walk through this? But ultimately at the end, whether it's that moment or later down the line, light bulb goes off, like, I see why God did that. And as scripture tells us that all things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. And we just need to rest in knowing that he's God, and He's been the same yesterday, today, and forever, and we can
Right.
bank on him above anything in this world. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just awesome to see that. And I love to hear testimonies of that, just the goodness of our God, even in the hills and valleys of our life. So that's awesome, man. And with all of that, God's given you some really neat talents and gifts and abilities to use for his honor and glory. Let's go ahead and talk about some of those. Graphic design, that's probably one of the biggest things that a lot of people see, including this shirt I'm wearing.
Yeah, man, I just saw that.
So if you're listening, I'm wearing one of Kyle's designs. He recently did the Coaster Radio 20th anniversary logo, which is sick. It's awesome. And he does a phenomenal job with his work. You mentioned it a little bit in your opening there, but how did you get started with graphic design, and how did this was what God wanted you to do?
Right. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, I've always been interested in art, drawing when I was younger, and I've always been drawn to logos, and I never really connected that would be something I could do. And, you're always told, people in art school aren't going to get a job, and so luckily I had friends that had done it, and so I thought, why can't I do it as well? It doesn't, like, I know this is what I should be doing, because it truly doesn't feel like a job to me. I love what I do. I get to, design things every day. I get to draw pictures. I get to make logos, whether that be for a high university or a personal client of mine. But I can't complain. A lot of people, complain about their jobs here and there, but there's some days I don't want to work. Everyone has that, but I love my job, and to be able to, use talents and gifts God's given me it's really a blessing.
That's awesome. And what have been some of your favorite projects and designs you've been able to work on?
So I grew up in Athens, which is right near Ohio University. So I've been here my whole life, but I grew up a diehard Bobcat fan,
Nice.
whether that, sports. And so being able to work on projects now that I see now at events and games, it's wild. Like 10-year-old me would not believe it. So sometimes it's surreal. Like I have to pinch myself and be like, that's really my work up there on the Jumbotron or something like that. But those projects are some of my favorite. I got to do the whole homecoming suite a few years ago, which included logo and icons and patterns, signage that ended up being, clear across campus the whole weekend and in the parade. So that was really early on too, when I started at OU. So that was really cool.
Nice.
Every once in a while, when the sports teams are doing well, I get to kind of make graphics that troll the other team. So that's a blast, and I have to make them if they win or lose. But It's really cool when they win and you get to use them. So that's cool. And then I guess outside of OU work, my company, I've been able to do a number of different logos for businesses in town, t-shirt designs. Some of my favorites were a mascot design for a elementary school in North Carolina. I got to do the Pinehurst Barbecue Festival logo, which a lot of big names of barbecue are there.
Cool.
And then our church logo at our new church, it just we were stuck so long, and it was a God thing, but it just came together so beautifully, and I'll have to share it with you, but it's really cool. All the symbolism isn't, but that, and then your shirt, it's got to be one of my all-time favorite logos too.
Nice. So how did you get, I don't know if you're able to share this or not, how did you get the task to create their new logo?
Yeah, so I have worked with Mike and Evie a little bit in the past. Years ago, actually, I was the coaster radio Olympic champion for ski ball. So that was the first time I talked to them. But I've also done like stickers, and like 3 years ago, I did their meetup T-shirt.
Nice.
Had like I think they were at Busch Gardens Tampa that year. So I'd been in contact with them before, but they just kind of reached out in the middle of nowhere, and we're like, hey, we've got our 20th anniversary this year. We'd really like to have a refresh of our logo to reflect our new name. So they dropped the .com. So they're Coaster Radio now. And they said the only stipulations are we really want to keep the radio tower and the coaster hills.
Yeah.
So I had done some sketching and brainstorming. A lot of it's just done up here. I just, mull it over for a few days. But I kept coming back to this idea of just zooming in on the radio building and tower. I really wanted it to still feel almost like the same logo. There's such an iconic thing for them, but really wanted to clean it up. So I was able to do that, simplify the line work. I use a lot of line work in my designs, but really simplified the hills on the coaster. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the radio tower actually doubles now as like the lift hill for the coaster that's on top of the building.
That's awesome.
It's kind of it kind of looks like Fury a little bit, but yeah, I was really happy. It came together so well, and they were really happy with it.
That's awesome. And as soon as I saw the new logo, I'm like, this is so nice, so sleek, and really good way to bring in, like you said, their 20th anniversary. So that's awesome that you got to do that. And what was the inspiration behind the design? I know you mentioned kind of giving a nod to the previous one, but was there a certain coaster that was your idea of the...
Actually, there wasn't nothing in particular. I don't think the one that's on their old logo was any coaster in particular. I just really wanted to emphasize that it was a roller coaster up there. Yeah. There's parts of the old logo that it just kind of maybe look like a structure, not really a roller coaster. So I just wanted to tie the whole thing together and be able to double that radio tower as a lift hill. They do I think their legal name, Lift Hill Media LLC, is their company. But so that was cool to tie that in.
Cool. That's really neat. And I never really put two and two together until you mentioned that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I can see the hill. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And something you also mentioned in your opening testimony and bio there was Little Light Supply. Go ahead and share with our viewers what that is and how it got started and some of the work you're doing with that.
Yeah. So it's been several years ago now. I had this feeling that God was calling me to do some t-shirt designs, like start a company that was faith-based. And I just kept putting it off. I was like, I don't know how to do that. I'm not a business person. I don't have any way of printing shirts. And he kept bothering me with it until I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And I found a place semi-local in Ohio that I could get shirts printed. And I came up with some designs, and it's just been a really cool way to share my faith with other people and being able to provide a way for other people to have not cheesy faith-based designs. And for me, it was never like to make money. I really started I wanted to provide our youth group kids with something cool that they'd want to wear. And so it's turned into now I have my own setup here. I can print in-house, and I do super small batch things. I'll do a pre-order and give it 2 weeks, and as many orders I get is how many I print. So it's pretty exclusive, and like I only do a few a year now, but it's still fun. I still like giving shirts away and that kind of stuff.
Cool. And how can folks purchase from Little Light Supply?
We I can get you the link to put in the notes, but it's Little Light Supply Co. at Big Cartel or /bigcartel.com.
Okay. All right, and we'll leave that link in the show notes below so you guys can check that out and get yourself some merch. It's some really cool designs. I know it'll represent the Lord well, and it's, like I said, it's very awesome designs, and everything Kyle puts out is just phenomenal. So definitely check littlelightsupplyco.com there and get yourself something. So
we also got Instagram too. We're on there.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll leave that in the notes below as well. So not only are you a graphic designer, follower of Christ, but you're also a coaster enthusiast, like probably a lot of the people listening to here. So one of the cool things that I found out through your bio was you work or you write for this little group called Coaster 101. Go ahead and tell us how you got started with Coaster 101 and some of the things you've been able to do with them.
Yeah, so I've been working with Coaster 101 since early 2013, I believe.
Wow.
They're just they're a group of writers. We're all over the country, and so before I got started with them, I was a fan of them for about 2 years. I loved what they put out. I thought it was clear, to the point. It wasn't all the stuff you didn't want to read. It was the news, the facts, and that's what I like to look at, something quick and informative. And there was this opportunity they were putting out a chance to work with them and to apply. So I did, and I was able to write a couple guest articles and eventually get on the team full time. It's been great. The group of guys that write for that website are incredible. They're some of my best friends now, even though I only see them once a year. We try to get together and hang out, ride some coasters together. But we have a Facebook group that we're constantly talking to each other and coming up with new content. Every once in a while, I'm on that podcast as well. Andrew, who really runs the podcast, he does an incredible job. And so it's really cool to be able to write about something we love. And also, like I mentioned, the kid in me wouldn't ever believe that I got to do some of the things that I've done now by being part of Coaster 101. Like I've been to probably over a dozen media days and events and got to ride coasters before other people get to. Videos of me riding roller coasters. It's just crazy. And I would never have had that opportunity if I wasn't part of this group. And it's been really cool to see how we've grown over the years. This is actually our 20th season as well, or 20th year of the blog. And so we've got some things planned for that. But yeah, we have, millions of page views now a year. And it's just crazy to think that like 20 years ago, that hasn't even, it was very small. It was like 2 guys. And now we have a group of, I believe, 8. So it's really cool. Yeah.
That's super cool. And I'm a fan of Coaster 101 and their podcast, like you mentioned. And that's one of my go-to sources for coaster theme park news. And it's one of the most reliable out there, too. And like you said, just the writings are superb. They're great. And I didn't even know they were 20 years old. So that's really cool. And what has been some of your favorite memories from your time with them?
Oh, man. Sure. The getting to ride Steel Vengeance at 5 a.m. and it was like 35 degrees. It was so cold, but like the hype leading up to that ride was, incredible. And being there in the dark and the fog up at Cedar Point, it was wild. And so that was probably one of the coolest media events I got to go to. And then uh, being able this year to take my son with me. He's a budding coaster enthusiast as well. He wishes he was taller so he could ride the big ones. But I got to take him. We did a hard hat tour at Kings Island for their new coaster this year. And then we were invited out to Good Gravy at Holiday World. And I think we rode it like 13 times that morning. And
Wow.
the workers were like, I think you have like the unofficial record right now of most rides on this thing.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's been cool to share that with him.
Nice. And I've ridden Mystic Timbers in the cold, and I can't imagine Steel Vengeance in the cold.
Yeah, sure.
How was that?
Yeah, that was very cold. It wasn't actually. I think this year at Top Thrill 2 Media Day, that was even colder. It was. I had so many layers on, I could like hardly move.
Oh wow!
But that, yeah, going in 120 miles an hour in the almost freezing weather, yeah, kind of painful. But when you can ride roller coaster, it doesn't really matter. So
yeah. So how was Top Thrill 2 being one of the only few people who got to experience it last year?
Yeah, I mean, that was crazy. Like, it was like a week or two after we had been there, it closed. And so everyone was like, how was it? And I will say the original one had like more of that instant thrill factor. Like the launch was so intense, but the ride was so short. Mm-hmm. And while this one is maybe not as intense, the ride's better. I think having that forward, backwards, forward really makes it more of a full experience ride. My favorite part is the launch backwards, and you get to the top of that spike, and you're just hanging there. It feels like 3 or 4 seconds, but yeah, awesome ride. I really hope it opens again so more people can experience that.
I was going to say, I'm hoping it opens this year because I'm excited to ride it. My wife and I were so close to riding Top Thrill Dragster.
Yeah.
But the line was ridiculous the day we went. And just a few days later is when the incident happened. So it's like, I don't know if the Lord's protecting us or what it was, but I can't imagine what the original version is, how more intense it is now. So
yeah, I got to ride. So when all those rumors were going around about King Dakar closing, I was like, that was one park I'd never been to. And I had, a Six Flags membership. And I was like, for years, I'm like, all right, this is the year I'm going. This is the year I'm going. And they announced that. And I was like, I've got to go ride King Dakar. So I made the trip. And it was like the day before it closed, I think. Wow. I got on it. And it reminded me so much of Dragster but man, it was old. You could tell. It was so rattly. It was like, this thing is falling apart. It should be taken down. But so, yeah, it was cool to experience that same kind of thrill again. But yeah, hopefully they put something else there just as good.
What would you like to see in that plot? If you could put anything in, it's a big plot now. So if you could put anything in there, what do you think could go there?
Yeah, usually when someone asks me that, my go-to is like some kind of like RMC single rail, because a lot of places don't have those, but they do. Yeah. And so I'm a big sucker for like traditional woodies, like Mystic Timbers is one of my favorites. And so if you could do something like that, maybe a little bigger, but same pacing, I think that would be a really cool, nice long layout there.
Nice. And of the 2 Ohio parks, which one do you claim as your home park?
Definitely Kings Island. I'm about 2.5 hours from there, and I'm about 3.5 from Cedar Point.
Cool.
We got my son and I got season passes this year for Kings Island, so we went down probably 6 or 7 times, and it's not bad at a 2.5 hour drive. So we were there a lot.
Yeah, Kings Island is my home park, and I love it. And
Yeah.
it's cool that you got to do that memory with him of taking him to the hard hat tour for
Yeah.
soapbox racers. And what's his favorite coaster there so far? Is it soapbox racers?
No, I think it's the Beast, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
So, what got him started in coasters? Was it just your passion for it, or was it going to the park so often? Or
Yeah, I think it was probably me. I was I had my fingers crossed hoping he would
yeah,
get hooked, but yeah, I mean, he's pretty much grown up going to parks, riding anything as soon as he was able to. I think when he was like one, he was at Mystic Timbers Media Day with me, with like my wife and I and him went and kept passing it back and forth. So like he's grown up with it, and so it's really cool now to be able to do that with him and talk about what's your favorite coaster. I think his favorite all time right now is Wildcats Revenge at Hershey Park.
nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, I rode that for the first time, and it's one of the good ones out there for
It is
an
yeah.
RMC, and it's definitely better than what its predecessor was.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
That hurt, but that's a fun one. So, what is your favorite
it
coaster
is.
that you've ridden?
So for the longest time, like I said, I'm a big wooden coaster fan.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking wooden coasters, for the longest time it was the Beast. Like it's so long. The double helix is still the best element, I think, on any coaster ever. Like that feeling going around there through the tunnel, it feels like you're going a lot faster than you are.
Mm-hmm.
So that for the longest time was my favorite until this year I got back to Holiday World and rode the Voyage again.
Yeah.
And it had just been retracked. It was running so smooth, and it's so long too. But I would say it's beat out Beast now for the top spot for sure.
Nice. And what's your favorite steel coaster?
If I can count Steel Vengeance, that's what I'm going with.
Fair enough.
It's steel, pretty much.
Yeah.
But other than that, probably like Fury.
Cool. Yeah, Fair's a fun one too. And we rode that for the first time. We went to Carowinds for the first time this past year. It's a good park. It is definitely one of the best ones from the Legacy Cedar Fair ones, and we enjoyed that. And it's neat to see that they're getting life in their Camp Snoopy this year too. And
that would be cool.
Again, for those newer coaster enthusiasts like your son, just growing up with some of those coasters is really neat. Of the new additions for this year, which one are you looking forward to the most? And which one do you think will take home the award for best coaster of 2025?
Yeah, this is hard. I think it's between Siren's Curse and then I'm totally blanking on the name now. The one at Canada's Wonderland.
Alpen Fury.
Yeah, Alpen Fury. But I think it's going to be Siren's Curse just because of where it's at, being at such an iconic park and being such a iconic type of roller coaster. This is something like the community has been obsessed with for years, but we've never had one in North America. Yeah. It's crazy that we're getting two this year, but
absolutely,
I think the fact that it is what it is and it's where it's at is going to really help it. And I think it's going to be a good ride too. The layout's great after the drop. So as long as it's, it doesn't come out rough and it's a really good and smooth, enjoyable ride, I think it's going to take the cake this year.
Yeah. That was a huge surprise last year. That literally came out of nowhere. I'm surprised they kept it under wraps. I don't know how long they kept it under wraps, honestly, from what we hear of the chain that was passed along. But that was a neat surprise to the coaster community. And I'm sure it was out of nowhere for you guys at Coaster 101 as well. Like, okay, we're getting two coasters next year.
Right. Especially like right after Top Thrill. Like, no one would have thought that was coming.
Yeah. And what do you think is next for Cedar Point? Do you think it's another coaster, a water attraction, a dark ride, or what do you want to see, I should say?
Yeah, they have such a well-rounded lineup now. I would I would love to see a traditional wooden coaster up there.
Mm-hmm.
There's not. Um, the Cedar Creek Mine Ride, that area, I think would be really cool
Mm-hmm.
if they replaced it with like again a Mystic Timbers
Yeah.
type roller coaster right there. That would be really cool. Uh, I'm a big fan of dark rides too,
Mm-hmm.
so having something like that, I think, would help round out their entire attraction lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be cool to see.
I'm surprised they have not had a dark ride in recent years. I think the
Hmm.
last time they had one was probably the pirate ride. That was how
Yeah,
many years ago?
yeah,
But that would be neat to see that. I'd love to see them get a GCI in that frontier town area, and
yeah.
it'd be nice to have it over that pond that they have
Hmm.
there. And now that the water ride, I forget the name of it, their um, plunge ride. Now that that's
Yeah,
gone, that opens up a whole
yeah. It's a
playground
lot
for
of
them to
it.
work with. So,
Yeah, and they're strapped for real estate too. So
mm-hmm.
any little bit they can get will help.
Yeah, for sure. And what are some of the parks that you have planned for this year? What are some of the things you're looking forward to in 2025?
Oh, I so like I mentioned, I have the Six Flags membership, and they came out with the opportunity to get the Cedar Fair add-on
Mm-hmm.
for like $100 for the year. So
Yeah,
I did that. I'd really like to get to Canada's Wonderland this year.
cool.
I have not made it up there yet, and with the Alpine Fury coming in, it might be the right year to go up there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to get there, and then to several other of the Six Flags parks, just to get the smash and grab some credits like Six Flags St. Louis and New England. So that would be ideal for the summer.
Cool. Yeah, that's another bucket list park for me is to get up there to Canada and check out Canada's
Yeah,
Wonderland. It looks like they've got a good lineup and a really good park. So
yeah,
hopefully get to go up to there. Um,
yeah. We were supposed to have a meetup there for Coaster 101 a couple of years ago, and for some reason I couldn't make it, so I was really bummed.
yeah, hopefully get to get up there this year. But
Yeah.
now the $1 million question. Now that you have Kings Island as your home park, what would you like to see in that vortex plot of land?
Oh man.
If you could put anything in that spot, what would you
Yeah.
like to put there?
I think. See, I go back and forth on this. Either something similar to Copperhead Strike,
Mm-hmm.
like some kind of multi-launch there that
Woods.
would
Yeah.
be kind of out in the open there, but also go back into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
You could even do like a show building, kind of like Verbolten has, or something like that. That would be really cool there. But I also go to the other side where it's like RMC single rail. I got to ride, Jersey Devil this year, and that was so cool. Like the being on this tiny little track, it feels like you're going so much faster than you are. So I think something like that too would be cool there. Some custom RMC.
Nice. Those are good ones for that area. My wife and I are hoping for a Copperhead Strike as well.
Yeah,
Kings Island needs something like that
they do.
at the
Yeah.
park, and I think that would
Hmm.
probably take the best attraction or best coaster at the
It
park if
might.
that were
Yeah.
to be the case. And you've got
Yeah.
that plot of land, and if you want to go crazy, you can take out the Italian Job, take out the Action
Yeah.
Theater. Then you've got so much to work with. But
Yeah.
what do you
There's a lot
think?
there.
Yeah. So, what do you think is coming in 2026? Now that Six Flags has kind of hinted, we're getting a family thrill attraction.
Yeah. Uh, I don't no idea. I haven't really thought about it. The I would like to see. I don't know where they would expand it, but like
Mm-hmm.
expanding that out past Banshee, between
Mm-hmm.
the Bat and Banshee. There's such a nice plot of land there. I know they own a lot of land back
They
there,
do.
so I think another family area would be cool. Like they
Yeah.
have Planet Snoopy, maybe like an in between family area, so not like little kids. Maybe they're not ready for
Tweens.
Diamondback, but having something in that 48, 50-inch height requirement, that would be really cool as like a transition thing. I don't know. Family attraction might not mean roller coaster, but that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, that's something that needs life is Action Zone. Needs a little bit more to it. And I think
Yeah.
that'd be perfect to expand that a little bit.
Yeah.
Now they have DC to work with, so if they wanted to make that the
Yeah.
first Legacy Cedar Fair to get it, that'd be
Yeah.
perfect for, like you said, that tween stage, teenagers, where it's thrilling, but still the
Yeah.
kid can enjoy it as well. So
Yeah. I was kind of disappointed when they put Orion where they put Orion, because I always thought it would be cool to connect the park from that area 51 to Action Zone, like behind back there, and then have a whole new area of the park. But I don't know if they can do that now, where they've kind of like cut that midway off with Orion.
Yeah, we'll see what the park has in store when it opens this season, and what's different and what might look off. But there's tons of speculation going around. But I know the park will do something really cool. And now that Six Flags is coming in, there's pros and cons, but I think there's hope. Yeah. Even though there's some crazy things that have happened this past year with the chain, I think there's still hope. But as we bring this time to a close, and it's been fun talking coasters and just the things of God with you. What are some takeaways you want to leave with listeners today, whether it's career-wise, spiritual? What are some takeaways you want to leave with guests or listeners this week?
I think just make sure you don't ignore what God's telling you to do. Just there's a reason for it. It might be really hard, but God's always going to back you up on that. Just no matter if you're doing it for Him, He's going to be there for you. So that would be one of the biggest things. Another is just to make sure you're filling yourself up. Sometimes I think as Christians, we're always like trying to pour into other people, and we leave ourselves really empty. But get a really good group of Christian friends to do life with. People that are going to have your back, that people that you can talk to. I've been a part of a Bible study of more or less the same guys for about 8 years now, and we commit to meet regularly, and we have a group chat going on every day. It's it's going off, and sometimes it's just we're sending each other funny memes or something, but we're there for each other. We're building each other up, and so just being able to have that kind of community around you is huge in your own faith walk. And no matter what you do, just always have other people to help you, like no matter what you're into. So like we have really good friends of ours that have also done foster care and are doing it right now. So we can, empathize with each other and, throw ideas around like this happened today. How do we deal with that? And so, I don't know, just being able to bounce that off each other and going through life with other people that are doing the same thing as you it's huge.
That's good advice there. And we all need community, especially a community of believers that you can lean upon in the good and the bad, and just to go to the Lord on behalf too. That's awesome. And it's good to surround, again, people with like faith and passions that can go through all the way. So very good. What is a verse in the Bible that you'd claim as like your life verse, or something that means something to you, and why is it that?
Yeah, my go-to is Colossians 3:23. Well, it's whatever you do, work out with all of your heart as working for the Lord and not human masters. And I try to live by this every day and everything I do, whether it be like my job, cooking, working out, doing yard work, like whatever you do, put your all into it. And if you're doing it for God, you're going to give it 110%.
Yeah.
So even if it's like a meaningless job, it gives you something to do it for.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you have a job at work that maybe you don't really want to do and it's bothering you, like, I'm doing this for God. Like, he gave me these talents to do this. I'm going to do it 110% for him. And I think if you do that in all aspects of your life, God's going to be there for you.
Absolutely. And that's a good verse too to be reminded of. And like you said, whatever we're doing, whether we like it or not, it needs to be done for the Lord in a good attitude.
Right.
Because like with your apparel line there, to let our light shine, and then people can see our good attitude, and that will please God and draw people to God. Because this world, let's be honest, they really don't care for Christians, and they don't want anything to do with it. But if they see someone who's giving a good work ethic, a good attitude, even in the tough situations, that might open up their heart and be receptive to the gospel. So that's a really good verse.
That's always been my kind of motto when it comes to being a good witness. Is it's not being out there on the street corners shouting at people. That doesn't do any good. We were called to be known by our love, and being able to show that day in and day out, just in doing life the right way, doing it with 110% effort, doing it with love. People are going to notice that and notice there's something different about you.
Absolutely. And people know us by how we live our life. So let's live a life that's pleasing to the Lord, and that'll draw all men to him. And then a question that we ask every week to our guests. Is there a song that you would like to highlight this week that means something to you? Because we have this playlist. Each Saturday we add a new song to it called the Song Spotlight. And is there one you would like to add this week?
Yeah, let's. I was going to go with. It's called "Walk On" by my friend Seth Jernigan. I really hadn't heard of Seth until I came upon this song, but since then I've met him. We've had him to our church and do a concert, and he's an awesome guy, great songwriter. But I just happened upon this song right after we went through the tragedy with our foster son, and just being in this really low place at the time, I just listened to the song on repeat, and it got me through the next few months. And it's all about no matter what, we have to push forward and trust God in our darkest season. Just walk on, keep going. God's going to be there. So that was a song that has just been really important to me. It helped me a lot, and give it a listen. It's good.
Awesome. So that's Walk On. And what was the artist's name again?
Seth Jernigan.
All right. And we will highlight that this week as our song of the week. So, and then closing here, Kyle, how can folks get connected with you and get connected with some of your work and anything you want to plug?
Yeah, so I'm mainly on Instagram. I kind of use it as my portfolio and just to document coaster travels and whatnot. So mostly on there. Also, Little Light Design Company, is on there. And if you want to reach out, you need a logo done or anything like that, I'd be happy to help. I do small batch apparel, so if you don't want to go spend a fortune on some internet site somewhere to get one shirt made, I can do that.
Cool. And one last question I thought of. What is your coaster count currently?
I am sitting at exactly 350 right now.
Wow, that's awesome. And hopefully there's more on the horizon for this year. So, awesome. Well, Kyle, it's been a pleasure to have you on. And everybody go ahead and check out the links below and get connected with Kyle. And like I said, if you need some logo work done, go check him out. Thanks again, Kyle, and we'll see you all next week here on the ROYL Podcast.